Hi, I'm Ben Province and welcome to Show Me the Music. On today's show, we have one of the most recognizable voices in alternative rock. Ed Kowalczyk first hit the musical landscape when his former band Live took the 90s by storm. The singer-songwriter is now focused on a solo career, being a dad, and giving back. And joining me now is Ed Kowalczyk. Thank you so much for being here. And this is not your first time in St. Louis. Give me some of your favorite memories of playing in St. Louis over the years.
Oh gosh, it's been, coming here for, more than 20 years probably at this point. I've had incredibly fond memories of in Live and also as a solo artist. Played here actually in Blueberry Hill already a few years ago. Amazing show, and the fans have just always been really, really loyal. Keep on coming out. I do have I think one of the most embarrassing things that ever happened to me in St. Louis at a theater here. It's based on the name, but I do remember tearing my pants and having to resort to duct tape.
Okay.
To save any further embarrassments. Thank God that was the days before a lot of social media and YouTube.
Right.
That would have. Well, probably would have gotten a lot of views, so maybe it would have been good press for whatever we were doing. But
yeah.
I'm good with it.
Right. And you sold out tonight's show. What does it mean to you to get that reception from the St. Louis fans?
It's great. It's great. It sold out a while ago, and again, I've just been, throughout both aspects of my career, both chapters in Live, of course, and then as a solo artist, it's just been a really, really great market for me. Always has been.
Great. And you're playing Throwing Copper, celebrating the 20th anniversary on this tour. What can fans expect when they go to this tour? Can they just see that album? Are they going to see new stuff?
Well, we're doing the whole entire Throwing Copper record as part of the 20th anniversary celebration. It's myself and my guitar player Zach Loy. It's a kind of a multimedia show. We have a screen, which I've adapted a bunch of visuals for the songs that didn't have music videos, and
cool.
It's been a lot of fun. I haven't done that yet, so we do the album 1 through 14. Do all it just like it is,
okay.
On the CD or vinyl or whatever. And then we do an encore sort of second part of the set where I get a few of my new songs in there as a solo artist and some of the other hits of my work in Live in there. And I think combined with the video and the multimedia effect, people are really flipping out over the show because it's just another dimension to what I've been doing. It's still intimate, but it has this added production that kind of just again adds another depth dimension to it.
And what does it mean to you to have songs like I Alone and Lightning Crashes hold up so well 20 years later?
It's amazing. I mean, I think when you're, doing something as personal as songwriting, where you're sitting there just coming up with ideas in your bedroom or whatever, and you can't ever imagine that any of these things that you're doing. I mean, you feel good about them. Obviously, you wouldn't go forward, but right. The fact that they transcend that and become universally successful, and even all these years later, still relevant to the fans is pretty amazing.
And I Alone has always intrigued me lyrically. It's a very spiritual-minded song. Your catalog kind of has that theme throughout. What were you thinking when writing that song, and theologically speaking, and how has that changed or stayed the same?
That song's a really interesting song lyrically because it's a lot like just my approach in general, which is these sort of montages or phrases that I just kind of paste together, and then it's an exciting way for me because I like to see where they go. I'm not necessarily conceptualizing a whole lot about, they're not tied to a specific event or anything like that. They're just more emergent out of feeling and again, just pacing things together. But I mean, to that one, I think that it's real, indicative of that time period and something that's carried through my whole career as a writer of just that questioning, the idea of the deep sort of personal experience of spirit and love and how that differs from romantic love, but how it's the same, how it's and just sort of investigating that, not necessarily coming up with any answers, but trying to put all of that into a song and at the same time I think it's pretty open to interpretation. Some people think it's like this obsessive love song, but I never really get that from it.
No, I don't either.
And people do, and some people don't, and it's fine. It's the same with Lightning Crashes. A lot of the it's just something about the way that I, try to keep the lyric universal, that it keeps it wide open for people to make what they want of it.
Sure, and I mean, I guess similar ideas kind of have now come into your new album, The Flood and the Mercy. What do you hope listeners take out of that one?
The same. I think that The Flood and the Mercy is unique from the first solo album, Alive, in the sense it's a little darker. You know, there's some sort of darker moods and motifs in there.
Okay.
Definitely some anger management songs, and some, you know, it's a lot of energy. I was going through a really, you know, sort of cathartic time in my life. You know, starting out as a solo artist, you know, moving through that and all the, you know, stuff that was going on, and I poured it into that record, and so I think that it added a lot to the tension of it and to the, you know, I really used it as a kind of a therapy, really, to move through some of the things.
Right, and that's kind of music at its purest form a lot of times, is that kind of therapy. You've been a solo artist full-time now for a few years.
About 6 years, yeah.
What was the biggest surprise you run into going solo as opposed to a full band unit?
Well, you know, it's challenging. I think was challenging and still remains that way to a degree, because I've taken sort of the approach of not knowing exactly what lineup I'm going to use. You know, sometimes it's just me on stage, sometimes it's full band, sometimes it's with an orchestra, sometimes it's with a duo, and as much fun as that is, it presents, you know, challenges to adapt my songs and adapt to every different venue, market, whatever. Whereas in live, you know, because it had been around for so long, that it was like becoming kind of a one-trick pony. It was just sort of doing one thing, which is a good thing, but this is much more dynamic for me as an artist, and so challenging, but at the same time a lot more rewarding, because you know, I'm doing new things, and that feels good.
That's great, and you've put out 3 main releases since you've been solo. You've also put out a single partnering with World Vision, and you're working with them still. Can you tell me about that?
Sure. I started working with World Vision, became an artist affiliate with them right around the time I started my solo career, about 5 years ago.
Okay. And
done tons of work with them. Of course, they do most of their work through hooking up, you know, sponsors up with individual children, which then, you know, they go in and they focus energy on that community, and they've been around 70 years. They're an amazing organization. They just started this thing called the Water Effect, which is another way that people can support, you know, up to 4 people, you know, to have clean water every year, with, you know, the monthly support. So we just started doing that.
World Vision is serious about making sure every child has clean drinking water. And so we're going from household to household, asking the head of the household what their water source is, if it's a clean, safe drinking source, and if it's working right now.
Being a community development worker or a social worker, I had a dream. And for sure today, we are saying we have reached almost 100% coverage. So this dream now is almost getting achieved.
My fans have been really great. They've embraced it big time. We've gotten over 300 new sponsors hooked up with kids just at shows over the last 5 years, and they're a remarkable organization, super A+ rated ethically. They're absolutely sort of diamond clear on all that stuff that people are, they're pretty impressive.
Yeah, and how important is it to really support charities like World Vision in general?
It's great. I mean, you know, I started doing it. Of course, I have 4 kids, and you know, I think it's the more kids I had, the more I think that brings you closer to this. You see how vulnerable they are in a whole different light, and you naturally want to not see kids suffer, even more so after you have your own. And I think that it just became much more important to me to help. And you know, not that you ever tolerate that, but it becomes even less tolerable as you become, you know, to see it out there. And,
it becomes personal.
Yeah, it becomes personal. And so I just got really engaged, and it's a wonderful thing to be able to do, not just do the show, which, you know, is great and it's fun and we all sing along, and, you know, but to actually at the end of the night go, hey man, we got 5 kids sponsored tonight. That's changed 5 lives. So it's pretty amazing feeling.
Yeah, that's great. You mentioned your 4 kids. I was curious, do they like dig what you're doing, or do they just like the music, or do they just kind of like, are they so used to it by now, like, oh, that's my dad's job? That's
I think there's a little bit of that.
Okay.
I think that I just did a show in my hometown, Ridgefield, Connecticut. We did a little theater there, and they all got to come, and they hadn't seen me for a little while on tour because they're in school and stuff. And what the really fun thing was my 10-year-old really loved it, and the little babies that, you know, they're just running around going crazy anyway.
Yeah.
But my 13-year-old was apparently in her own group over there and was cheering, you know, wouldn't admit it, but was like, you know, go Dad, and like all her friends and stuff. So I know what you were doing.
Yeah. That's awesome. What kind of stuff are you listening to now?
You know, I'm on Spotify and all that, like everybody, and I pop around. I really like Alt J. I'm into the, you know, they're just really melodic and anything basically like that, or you know, or it's either that, it's either really new or it's like nothing past 1968.
Yeah.
I'm still really into Bob Dylan and Johnny Cash, and that's most of the time what you'll hear me listening to backstage.
Yeah, and were some of those Dylan, Johnny Cash, were they big influences on your music, even dating back to live, or?
Probably more so now.
Okay.
As I've stepped into the solo chapter of what I'm doing and doing more acoustically and more, you know, adapting my, you know, songs that became big rock songs that started acoustically, kind of bringing those to the people like this, really essentially, and then, of course, finding inspiration and more inspiration than I ever did from Dylan and Cash and all that, because they clearly were the beginners, you know, the sort of originators of that and carried that tradition. And so, yeah, I think maybe more as a solo artist, I've come less away from rock bands and more to that style.
And would you say your writing process has changed at all, and as a solo artist than before, or is it?
No, I'm the principal songwriter in live, so starting with, you know, acoustic guitar and just come up with the best lyrics and melodies I can. Still doing it that way, pretty much. Once in a while, I'll collaborate with a producer or something, and he might come up with a little idea or something. But very rarely. It's mostly, yeah, just the pure craft of sitting there and coming up with them.
Okay, great. And The Flood and The Mercy, you want to touch on that one more time? Where can people go and pick it up?
Yeah, there's The Flood and The Mercy and Alive are the two full-length albums, and there's an EP called The Garden. Okay. They're all available on iTunes and all the digital outlets, and then, of course, at my shows, I always call it the goodie table. We have plenty of all that. And vinyl. I put them out both on vinyl as well.
All right, sounds good. Well, thank you so much for being here.
It's a pleasure.
And you're watching Show Me the Music. Well, that'll do it for today's show. I want to give a big thank you to Ed Kowalczyk and, of course, to Blueberry Hill for being so accommodating. And on behalf of the entire crew, my name is Ben Province, and I'm asking you to show me the music.